I'm Dr. Diane Duncan, and welcome to another episode of Becoming You. This podcast is to help assist you in becoming a better, successful you in life and in business. I am delighted to share with you today on just that. We know that becoming a better you takes work. In fact, it takes a lot of work that we sometimes really don't want to do ourselves. So today, I want to talk about connections. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Becoming You. Yes, today I want to talk about connections. Connections. What do your connections look like, right? So when you think about connections, what is it that you think about connections? How do you think about connections? Everybody that you're connected to, how do you think about those connections? So like when I think about connections, I think about family, friends, mother, father, sister, brother, cousin, auntie, uncle, husband, wife, children, siblings, boss, co-worker, and even business partners. And we may have many more connections, but these are the ones that I thought about as I was doing this podcast. So when we think about connections, we think about the experiences we have with these connections. And when we experience these connections, we experience like joy, peace, happiness. We can even experience some pain, suffering, betrayal, anxiety, depression. We can even experience rejection and loneliness. And we can even experience significance, importance, value, and worth. And we can even experience purpose, destiny, and assignment. We can also experience becoming. And so the experiences that we have with others are important because it's a connection we must have with each other. And so now some of you or some of your connections may be good. Some of your connections may be so-so. Some of your connections may be so good. I mean, not so good, or, they may be just bad connections, right? But when we connect and make connections with others, we experience something other than ourselves, right? Have you ever experienced something other than yourself? Well, if you don't think you've ever experienced something other than yourself, then I want you to think again, because you've actually experienced something other than yourself, right? You experienced, a connection that you may have had maybe with a spouse or with a sibling, with your mother, your father, with a newborn child. You are experiencing something other than yourself. So we all have experienced something other than ourselves, right? And so when we experience something other than ourselves, it can help us to discover our uniqueness. It can help us discover our talents. It can help us discover our abilities. It can help us discover ourselves, right? And so what experiences are you today having with the connections that you are connected with? Because whatever connections that you're having, guess what? Or whatever connection that you're connected with, you are experiencing something, right? And is it helping you to discover who you are? Is it helping you to discover, your uniqueness, your talents, your qualities, helping you to become like your connections, that the people that you're connected with should be doing something that's going to foster within you something that's going to build you up, encourage you, inspire you to become the best version of yourself, number one, and to become all that God has for you, so that you can walk into your purpose, your assignment, and the destiny that God has for you, right? And so you have to really look at these connections that you are connected with. And so these connections that you're connected with will give you some type of experience, right? It will give you an experience that, it may be a great experience. It may be a not so good experience. It may be even a bad experience, right? But these connections will give you an experience, and it may give you an experience of, one that you will remember for the rest of your life, right? But we understand that connections give us experience. And so the people that you are connected with, because of those connections, say a lot about you. It can say a lot about who you are, and those connections say a lot about who you are becoming as well. And so if these are connections that you should be a part of, these are connections that you want to embrace. Because these are the connections that's going to cultivate who you are, because these are the connections that are important as well. And so if you are in connection with others that are not so good or great, you may want to rethink those connections, because those connections can be trouble, right? Those connections can be trouble. Those connections can be so those can be connections that, spell out trouble. Those can be connections that you just don't want to be a part of, right? But you want to, look at these connections to see if these connections are a right fit for you. And so, because some connections can be very overwhelming, some connections can be manipulative. And so in order for you to understand who you are becoming, you have to look at the connections that you are connected to. And in my experiences, the connections that I've had were connections that helped me to see, who I was, right? I remember when I used to work for the government, and I had a supervisor, who shared with me, she saw something in me that, I didn't even see in myself at the time, right? But she was like, there's something special about you. There's something unique about you. I see you in a leadership position, but not a leadership position here where it was that, I was employed, right? But she saw something greater in me that I couldn't even see in myself. And so that was a connection that God allowed for it to happen, right? Although, she was my boss, my supervisor, she was one that really lifted me up. She was one that encouraged me. She was the one that told me not to say the word I can't, but you can, right? And so, but she saw something in me where she knew that there was some sort of greatness in me, and I guess she wanted to let me know that. And so by her saying that, had me thinking like, wow, you think all these great things about me. I didn't even see these things in myself. And that's why your connection is so important, because people are going to come into your life, right? And they may not stay in your life permanently. They just may be in your life for a season, just so they can do, or be used by God in a way that's going to propel you more into your identity, more into you becoming. And so, yeah, she was right on point, because years later, I saw myself in positions of leadership, in positions of doing things that, I never imagined that I was going to do. And so these connections that you're allowed to connect with, these are connections that's going to give you experience, but these are connections that's going to basically show you something about yourself. Like, it's going to show you something about yourself. Be wary if you are in connected relationships where they're not propelling you or sharing something about yourself. If it's always about themselves, if it's always about the me, myself, and I, that may not be the connection that you need to have, because that connection is only focused on itself, and is not focused on the connection they truly have with you. And so you have to really be mindful who you're connected with. Sometimes connections, these experiences can be with you can experience suffering and connections, hurt and pain, and the list can go on and on and on and on and on. But there's an experience that one has when they're connected to any type of connection, any type of relationship that they have with another person, right? And so sometimes when we're connected with others, and we're experiencing, different types of connections and different types of feelings and different types of emotions, these emotions will allow us to really feel, right? It will allow us to really feel. Some people don't feel, like some people just shake it off, or they pretend that they don't feel, and they act like, nothing never happened, right? But for me, emotions, allowed me to be myself. Like, even when, I was connected to certain relationships that I was connected to would allow me to be myself. But then there were certain relationships that I was connected to where I couldn't be myself, right? I had to kind of close myself up, put myself in a box, stay there until, the connection that would allow me to come out of the box, allow me to, really be me, be true to me, right? And so these emotions allowed me to see myself. These emotions, even sometimes these emotions tore me down. And so the emotions that was tearing me down was the emotions, the connections that were putting me in a box. the connections that was like shoving me off, the connections that, was snubbing their nose up at me, the connection that was, jealous of me or envious of me or intimidated by me. These are the connections that was like tearing me down. And so, of course, when you have those type of connections, you feel some kind of way, right? Because, you want everybody to love you, like you, and be, a part of, who you are becoming, right? But sometimes that just does not happen, because I believe that you do kind of need those connections. Now I think about it, because those connections will make you probably move even more into becoming who you are versus, sitting back and just letting them do whatever they need to do. For me, I was determined. I wasn't going to allow the naysayers to say whatever they wanted to say about me. I wasn't going to allow the naysayers to do whatever they wanted to do to me. I wasn't going to allow that. Yeah, they thought they may have had the upper hand, but guess what? God wins. God always wins. And so if you allow the connection that you have to propel you to go forward, to prepare you to do even more, with who God is allowing you to become, guess what? That's going to be great for you, because you're embracing that. You're embracing your flaws. You're accepting, everything that is about you. But that type of relationship is just helping you to see you more in a greater way. And so, and helping you to see your uniqueness too, right? Because we all have a uniqueness about us, but sometimes we don't recognize that uniqueness unless we are connected, in some sort of relationship. And so these connections can do a lot, where it will have you experiencing a lot of what you don't like about yourself and what you do like about yourself, even what you don't like about the person and what you do like about the person, right? But these connections will have you, doing and experiencing a lot because of the connection. So let me ask you again, what experiences are you having with the connections that you are connected with? And I want you just to think about that just for a little bit, right? Because, we really don't pay attention. I'm going to say that we really don't pay attention to our connections. We just think that because we're connected to this person, everything is fine, but sometimes it's not fine, because, we're not allowing ourselves to really think about the connections that are a part of us, right? We're not allowing ourselves to think about the connections that are a part of us. But I guess we're just so happy that we are connected to something, right? That somebody is connected to us, that we really don't even bother about, the actual connection that we have and the experiences that we may have with that connection. So who are you connected with, right? Who are you connected to? Who you're connected to will show you, some things in some areas, about you and about your connection. So you want to be able to literally look at your connections. So who you are connected to, because whoever you are connected to, you can either will either keep you from becoming. Let me say that again. Who you are connected to can either keep you from becoming you, right? Or it can assist you in becoming you. See, our connection should be helping us become who God has created us to be, and it should be helping assist us to become who God has created us to be. And so if that's not happening, you might want to rethink your connection, because ultimately we really want to move into the fullness of becoming, right? Because that's what God wants us to do. God truly wants us to become, and God truly wants us to understand, who we are. And so, as you know, this podcast is about becoming you, and becoming you requires connecting with others in a healthy way. So, your connections matter, right? Your connections matter. Our connection, for, if you don't realize it, our connection is a basic need for survival, because we were made for connection. When God created us, right? When he created male and female, he created us in the image of him and in the image of his likeness, right? So, when he put us on this earth, he said, let us not let man be alone, right? So he didn't want Adam, paraphrasing, he didn't want Adam to be alone. So he brought on, Eve, because he knew that Adam needed that connection. He needed that social interaction to be able to continue to do the work that God said that he had to do, right? Because God gave him dominion, him and Eve dominion over, everything, right? And so even though Eve came on board to help him with the work, that social connection was happening because now he was able to relate to something that, something other than himself, outside of himself, that helped him to relate to who he was, right? And so Eve did that. And even when we look at the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, right? We see that they had to be connected, right? They had to be connected, and they was connected, as one. So just as they were connected at one, they needed each other to be able to fulfill, certain things here on earth. For us, to be where we are today, they needed to connect. They needed that, connection so that we, could become. Amen? So that we could become. And so we need to connect. We need the connection to help us to understand ourselves because our connections help us to see ourselves in a greater way. And without connections, we cannot understand our purpose. We cannot understand our destiny. We can't understand our assignment. We can't even understand our becoming, right? We cannot understand our becoming. And so without connection, we can't understand none of that. And so that's why connection is so important. So if you're not connected to anyone, you may be doing yourself a disservice because we all need connection. And so becoming you, connection must be had, right? So you just can't be a loner. Like you can't be just a loner. There's somebody got to be connected to you, right? Somebody, because how else are you going to understand you? How else are you going to understand yourself fully if you're not in this connection? Because like I said in the beginning, connection actually gives us our emotions, right? Connection gives us our emotions. So our emotions share a lot about who we are. And so if we're not connected to anybody, right, we're not going to feel that emotion. We're just probably going to just have a straight emotion, a non-feeling emotion because, there's nobody to trigger the emotion. So we need the connection so that we can have emotions and so that those connections can help us to see ourselves in a greater capacity. And so your connections are important because it helps you socially and it helps you to recognize certain emotions within yourself. And so your connections with others may be more than what you thought. You see, our connection should want us to become more of who God created us to be without any manipulation. Because you see, some connections are manipulative, right? And will manipulate you to the point you cannot understand fully who you are and who you are becoming. You see, you have people in your life that will manipulate you to do what they want you to do so that they can win at whatever it is that they are trying to get from you. And while you're not, recognizing what that, manipulator is doing, that manipulator is taken from you, from you becoming. And so you see, those are the types of connections, like the manipulated connections, you don't want to have, because those type of connections can literally suffocate you to the point you lose yourself. Have you ever been suffocated in a relationship where you just totally lost yourself, and you just couldn't figure out why, you had this suffocation, why you was suffocating and why you was losing yourself and why, you just fully wasn't yourself? And that's probably because you may have had a manipulator, connection in your life where now you was experiencing the experience that you was getting and gaining from this connection with suffocation and losing yourself. And so losing yourself where you're not able to move forward in your purpose. So because manipulators will do that. Manipulators will manipulate you so much so where you're not able to move forward into your purpose. You're not able to move forward into your destiny. You're not able to move forward in life because the manipulator has come in and he has snatched everything that he or she wanted from you and left you with nothing. As a matter of fact, it left you empty, right? Not only did it suffocate you, not only did you lose yourself in that relationship, but it left you empty. it brought you no value. It left you no value, right? And so now, because of what the manipulator has done, now you got to try to put yourself back together again, right? Because of what the manipulator has done. And so you know what your manipulator looks like. All manipulators don't look the same. Manipulators can talk a good game, right? Manipulators actually know exactly what they want and what they're looking for, right? And if they can't get what they want, what they do, they're gonna throw you away and go to the next victim. Go to the next source that can, where they can just take. And once they can't take from them anymore, guess what? They go to the next one, right? And so you have to watch and be careful about that type of connection, because that's the type of connection that will give you an experience that literally you may not want to wish on your worst enemy, right? Because those are the connections that will suffocate the life out of you. I'm telling you, they will suffocate the life out of you. And when you wake up one day, open your eyes, and be like, okay, what just happened? Like, why am I here? And why do I feel like this? And it's because a manipulator has come in, and took all the valuables that you had. It could have been money. It could have been, love. It could have been joy. It could have been whatever it may have been, right? The manipulator has come in and has took all your valuables, and guess what? Left you with nothing. And so because of that, it kept you from really seeing yourself in that relationship, right? It kept you from seeing yourself in that relationship. And now you can't really focus on you becoming you, because that relationship, that type of connection just kind of stripped you of everything. And so you have to be mindful and watchful of that type of connection. You must really truly look at the connection that you are connected to, because connections are just could be good, like I said, and could be, not so good, if you really pay attention to the connection that you have. And because, these manipulative connections can damage and hurt and make you feel uncomfortable, even with yourself, right? Because the manipulative connection, they don't think they do anything wrong. Matter of fact, they doing everything just right for them, right? But when it comes to you acknowledging the experience that you're having with this manipulative connection, the manipulative connection will deny what it's actually doing to the relationship, where you can fully see how the relationship is making you feel. And so you got to really be careful about that type of relationship. And so those types of relationships are really not for you, but rather for themselves. The manipulator is only coming in for themselves, only coming in to get what they want. And then once they get what they want and you can't offer nothing else to them, guess what? They like, bye, see you later. Well, actually, I won't even see you later, because I'm going on to the next person that can give me, right? And so we got to be very careful about those relationships. And so what I mean by them is that the connection that they are establishing with you, the manipulative connection that they're establishing with you, is actually for them. Like, it's not for you, it's for them. The manipulative connection wants something from you. It wants to take something from you. And when it no longer serves them, they get rid of you, as I said. And the connection they had with you, is, depleted. It's gone. It's dead. It's not even, it's gone. It's just gone. And so the connection may not be what you had in mind when the connection was, initially established. And you find that, the manipulator used and abused you for what they wanted from you, right? It's a sad thing that when a manipulator can use and abuse you and you can't really see what the manipulator is doing, because you just happy that you connected, to that particular relationship. But, sometimes, we have to go through these experiences so that we can really truly see ourselves even in those connections. So we must be very careful in choosing who we connect to, because not all connections are good for you, right? Not all connections are good for you. That's why the next time someone wants to connect to you or with you, find out what their motives are. Because if they have some motives, and if those motives don't line up, with your values and with your beliefs, right? That might not be a connection that you want, because their motives may not be what is cracked up to be, right? And you may not want to enter into a connection that's not going to serve you, and vice versa, you serve it, right? Because it takes two, right? It takes two. So, you give and you take, you give and you take, but no one should just be giving, and, well, you got some takers, some are just giving, right? And the others are taking. And it should be, flipped around sometimes. One should be giving, and the other should be taking, and then it should be flipped again. Give, take, right? So each one should be given and taken, equally, right? So other connections that we have, that are, they're called healthy connections, right? And these are so I just talked about one type of connection, which is manipulative connections, right? But another type of connections I'm talking about is healthy connections, because we do have healthy connections that, gives us great experiences. And these healthy connections help us to, see ourselves, and see ourselves more than, what we've been seeing ourselves before. As I said, with the supervisor who saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself, that was actually a healthy connection, right? Because it gave me healthy experiences, and it wanted me to even do more, with, who God was creating me to be. So you got these healthy connections, and these are connections that will guide you, mentor you, direct you, show up for you, and help you to understand who you are becoming, because we all need to know who we are becoming. And when we need connections to connect with that's going to help assist us, right? And these connections can be in the form of a counselor, a therapist, a pastor, a life coach, as myself, and can help show you yourself, right? Show you your patterns, show you your behavior, show you things that may trigger you, show you things that you may feel about yourself. These healthy connections that can help lead you to understanding who you are and who you are becoming. And what these connections help us do is it helps us to really truly do the work on ourselves, so that we can be all that God has created us to be, right? And so we need those type of healthy connections, because those are the connections that's going to hold you accountable. Those are the connections that's going to be committed to your journey, right? Those are the connections that's, going to tell you, don't turn to the right, but turn to the left, or no, don't turn either to the right or to the left, but stay straight ahead, right? Those are the connections that's going to help you see you in a different way, in a different light, and in a greater way, right? And so, as I said in my last podcast, I talked about the onion. It was one of those podcasts where I talked about the onion. And so when you have a counselor, a therapist, a pastor, or a life coach, where you're experiencing this connection with them, they may take you through some things, right? And I always liken it to an onion, right? Because the onion is a very unique piece of vegetable, right? Because that onion that onion gives you an experience, right? That's like a connection in itself, because the onion can give you an experience, right? Because the onion surprises you. The onion, you just don't know what the onion going to do, right? And so the onion, when we look at that onion, I wish I had the onion in my hand. So just think about the onion. If you have an onion in your house, get the onion, and I want you to look at the onion. When you look at that onion, there's like that piece of skin. The wrapper that's wrapping the onion, I call it skin wrapper that's wrapping the onion. You're gonna, you peel that off, right? And nothing's happening, right? That first layer is nothing, but the skin of the onion, right? And so when you take that skin off, there's no effect. Nothing's bothering you. Nothing's hurting you. Nothing's happening, right? You just doing you. You are just doing you, right? And so, as you peel into that onion, after you take that onion and peel it layer by layer by layer, it's like you have now just taken a fresh onion, right? You peeled that first skin off that did nothing to you. You was okay. Nothing was wrong with you. But now when you start digging deep into that onion and you start peeling that onion layer by layer by layer by layer by layer, you start to feel some kind of way. How many of you start to feel some kind of way when you're in connection, with, others, right? Because some others are just like an onion. They're just like an onion where, at first, everything is okay. Everything's all right. Everything's fine. Nothing's happening. Everything is just good, right? But then when you start digging deep into that connection, that connection now can make you start feeling some kind of way. Right? It makes you feel some kind of way, just like an onion. The onion is starting to make you feel some kind of way. Because like when I begin to peel an onion or cut an onion, I'm like, man, why can't they give me something else to cut this onion? Because I really don't feel like crying right now. I don't want no tears. My eyes burning. I don't want no tears, coming down my eyes. I just want to cut this onion. So can't we do it another way? But of course you cannot do it another way unless you have some type of special tool, right, to get the onion cut. But in my case, no, I don't have a special tool. I got to do it, the normal way, as normal people do, right? And so you start to feel some type of way. And so as you get deeper and deeper into peeling that onion, right, you start to feel some emotions, right? And when I say emotions, you start to your eyes start to burn, and some tears start to well up in your eyes, where now you can't stop it from crying, and you start to sniffle. And y'all know what I'm talking about when y'all peeling that onion, you start to sniff, and the tears are coming. You start to wipe your eyes, but you can't put your hands in your eyes because you're touching the onion. And so you start to see yourself in another way, right? You start to see yourself in a way that you didn't see yourself before you started peeling that onion, right? And so you started seeing yourself in another light, because you are now allowing this onion to help you see you in a different way. And that's just like with relationships. That's just like with connections that we have. These are the experiences that we have, when we're connected to others, right? We got to feel, those type of emotions, and we got to go deeper and deeper and deeper down into the layers of onion, so we can see, is this relationship beneficial for me? Is this relationship helping me? Is this relationship significant for me? Is this relationship important? Is this relationship valuable? Because if it's none of that, right, you don't need that relationship, right? You don't need that relationship. If that's a relationship that's just going to take, if that's a relationship that's going to make you cry, that may not be the relationship for you. But that relationship should be showing you something about yourself. Because if it's not showing you something about yourself, you can't fully become who God has created you to be until you are able to see yourself in a different light and in a greater way. And sometimes, we need the healthy relationships to help us to see ourselves in a different way and in a different light and in a greater way, right? And that sometimes those can be a mentor or a coach that can assist you even in the peeling of that onion, so that you can become fully aware of you, fully aware of all of your dislikes, fully aware of all of your likes, fully aware of your behaviors, your actions, and your responses. And so if you allow those types of connections, those healthy connections, to come in and help you to do the work on you, you're going to be able to understand yourself more fully. But as I always say, you got to put in the work, right? You got to put in the work, because if you don't put in the work, guess what? You will never be able to become you. You will never be able to become fully you and who God has created you to become. And so you must be able to connect with like-minded people, and people who are going to be there for your best interest at heart. Because as I said, if you're connected with those other types of connections, such as the manipulative connections, they're not there for you. They're there for themselves. But when you are connected with someone who has your best interest at heart, those are the connections that's going to draw you closer and closer to you becoming who God has created you to be, and helping you to understand, who you are, because they're going to go, they're going to go to work with you. Like, they're going to be right by your side as you are working it out for yourself, right? As you are working it out for yourself. I'm reminded of, a person that I know, won't name any names, but this person, has some struggles, right? Has some really some struggles. And so, the person thought that they can do life alone. The person thought that they can handle the struggle, on their own. But, of course, the struggle, got the best of the person, right? And so therefore the person had to, seek a healthier connection, because the manipulative connection that person had wasn't benefiting that person, right? But the healthy connection that the person now has is really benefiting the person, because the person is experiencing more, of who they are, more love, more joy, more, consciousness. Like, they got a sound mind now, that they know, they feel more happier. And it's because of this healthy connection that they're now connected with, that's allowing them to not think about the struggle, the experience that they were struggling with, before. Now they can now come into a new light of who they are, and who they are becoming. And so you gotta be able to get these healthy connections in your life, so that these healthy connections can help you get to the root of your problem. Get to the root of your problem, so that you can know more about yourself, and why you do what you do, and why you don't believe you're becoming what you need to become in this season and stage of your life. And so you got to be able to bring in some healthy connections, so that they can help you to get to the root of the problem. So you need these connections, these type of connections in your life, so that you can see you in a greater way. It's important to find connections that's going to show up for you, everybody, and help you to see in a greater and brighter way yourself. If you're not in a connection, if you don't have these types of connections around you, you may want to ask God to send connections that's going to help you become you, that's going to help you to see yourself in a greater way. My question to you is, and this is your assignment, who are the connections that you're connected with? And what experiences are you experiencing with these connections? And are these connections right for you? Is every connection that you're connected with, are they right for you? Are these connections helping you to move even closer and closer to you becoming who God has created you to be? And if these connections are not, ask yourself why. Ask yourself why. Yeah, have a dialogue. Ask yourself why, and begin to jot down why you don't believe this connection is right for you, and why you believe that this other connection is right for you, right? So look at your connections all the way, so that you can determine, what connections are right and what connections are wrong, and what connections you need to leave behind and what connections you need to keep. So that's your assignment for tonight. Think about the connections. Think about the connections that you have and the experiences that you are having with those connections. And if those connections are not helping you to become you, ask yourself why, and ask yourself if you need to, get rid of that connection, so that you can focus on the connections that's going to help you move towards you becoming who God has truly created you to be. I'm Dr. Diane Duncan, and thank you for listening to another episode of Becoming You.